In this video, we will learn about making collision for our art assets and the importance of pivot point. So let's get started. So from the previous video, I have just changed some shape over my object to look it good. Now we are going to add the collision model for our object. For the collision model, you have three options for Unreal Engine 4. You can either have a simple box object as a collision, which you are going to use for the name prefix at UBX for Unreal Box Collision. Okay, then you can have a sphere for the collision object, which you are going to use for the name prefix as USX and obviously underscore. And for the object more complex than basic primitive objects rather than box and sphere, like having a box, some extruded faces, like if you are having a plus. Okay, I think I have done something wrong. So if you are going to have it like this, face extruded this side, then the next face extruded this side, and this one extruded this side. So having a complex shape like this, so if you are going to have a collision model like this, you are going to use the name UCX underscore as a prefix for the collision model. So what does this stand? UCX stand for Unreal Convex Collision. For making collision objects, you have to make sure that it doesn't have any open faces or edges like this. If it is like this, Unreal is not going to accept this collision object. Rather, it will make assumption that this is an open face and the collision is indefinite at this in this direction. So that is not good for you or for the engine and for your project. So always make sure that you have closed faces for your collision objects. So this is the theory of the collision. Let's make the collision object for our drums. So what we can have here is, like, I have this LOD here, so I'm going to just duplicate this LOD and going to use this somehow bigger at both the sides, and going to use this LOD as an collision object for my drum. You can go on model the collision object, but for the learning purpose for you, I'm just going to use this LOD. So here's my drum. So let's copy its name, and since this is not a box, not a sphere, so we are going to name it as UCX as a convex collision object and the name of my object. So that's going to be collision object for us. Now the things about pivot points. In Unreal Engine 4, you have to make sure that when you are modeling your art asset, your pivot point is at the zero of or at the origin of your viewport, either in Max, either in Maya, or in any 3D softwares. So let's have the pivot points of both these objects at 0. Then freeze the transformation. If you need that your object have the same position which you are seeing in your viewport in Maya, what you can do is, actually you don't have to freeze the transformation, you can have the transformation values, but for every object you should have your pivot point at the origin. So that's for the pivot point. So let's export our object. So this is the first LOD with the collision. So let's select those, both of these, drum and the UCS drum. File, export selection. We are going to use FBX to get these models in Unreal. For FBX option, turn the smoothing groups on, use tangent and binomials. Yes, we need these in our Unreal Engine 4. and triangulate your model, because since we are going here, we are using here coordinated models, you have to triangulate those. So let's have this one as static mesh sn from LOD0. I am going to name this as like this. So export. What I'm going to do next is we are going to export these two objects also. So let's hide our first drum. Okay, so beside that we are going to select this one. Let's make it come to the origin and let's adjust this. Okay, so let's have it at the same position of the model. You should have it in the same position, because yep, like this, and shift P, shift H. Okay, what I'm doing wrong. Okay, let's have it here. They should have same position. Remember, always remember, your LODs and your object should have same position. They do not flicker from their original position. Okay, so let's have it and let's export it again without the collision model, because once the collision is imported in the first LOD, it will be automatically be applied to other LODs. So one and export, same thing with him. So let's hide him. Hide him first. Let's adjust his position. Stick it here. Okay, let's hide you and let's export him. So export selection again, and this is going to be our second object. In the next video we will learn about how to import our art assets and LODs in the Unreal viewport.